My name is Jan Benham. I have been a clinical aromatherapist and beauty therapist for over 40 years, and my speciality has been in holistic skincare. So my interest came about because I was getting a lot of customers who had allergy-prone skins and sensitive skin issues. Back in those days, in the early 1980s, most of my clients had what they call acne rosacea, and at that time I was treating mostly Caucasian skinned women, and I could see that it ran in families. So often the mother would come, she would have acne rosacea, and you could see in her daughter that she had the beginnings of that condition as well. Over the years though, as I've been treating more and more people of different colours and races, I have noticed this condition occurring in people from everywhere from African skins to Asian skins. And it's been increasing rapidly. A lot more people are now suffering from problems with skincare products, skin allergies, and inflammatory skin conditions than ever before. So how can we as a therapist help these people? Well, we have to look, as a holistic therapist, we have to look internally as well as externally. So today I'm going to talk mainly about external help that you can give to your customers, but also just a few tips and tricks on how you can help people internally. So let's start with the internal use. Well, let's start actually with some pictures. So here are some pictures of some people with acne rosacea, so you can get an idea. Now these are regular pictures, but I did have one customer that had a severe case of acne rosacea. It was so severe, she had huge cysts that were basically being cut out by the dermatologist, which was terrible because she was left with big scars, and she still had the cysts forming, and her skin was red, inflamed, and very, very congested. I had a school at that time, a holistic health school, and so she used to come for treatments with the students so she could have cheap treatments, and we were able to keep the condition under control with using essential oils and alternative health products. So these conditions, let's start internally. So yeah, you might not be a dietitian or nutritional therapist, but you can use some basic formulas. So I strongly believe that people have been developing these conditions because of lifestyle changes and the environment. So the environment is a lot more polluted than before. The products that we are putting on our skin are usually loaded with perfume and other ingredients that causes skin irritation and inflammation. But also internally, we are eating far more processed foods than ever before, and that in turn causes body inflammation. And as our skin is the largest organ in the body, that is getting affected. So I do look at what people are taking internally, eating internally. And if I can see immediately that they're probably eating too many cookies, biscuits, Coca-Colas, and other processed foods. So even by simply cutting out a few of these foods and incorporating some healthy options like having lemon water in the morning, so juice of half a lemon in pure water every morning, all these can help to cut down on the inflammatory response in the body. Obviously, if you wish to have it go further, then you can send someone to someone who is trained in nutritional therapy. Now obviously, being a beauty therapist or aromatherapist, we're going to be looking at how we can help externally. And yes, we can help. So first of all, how can we help? First of all, by helping them not to use products on their skin that can cause inflammation. And that means really using pure products that don't contain any perfume, any things that can cause inflammation, and even some of the carrier oils can cause inflammation. So I do tend to use, for example, in my own practice, I tend to stick to very pure oils like fractionated coconut oil or jojoba oil, which have very little inflammatory response in the skin. Some of the vegetables can cause an inflammatory response in the body, so you've got to be careful of that. So some people are allergic to almond oil. I'm not saying that's bad for everybody, but just to be aware of that fact. My biggest tool in the box is my essential oils, and let's go through the protocol now. So first of all, when someone comes to me for a treatment, I would obviously take an intake and just check out whether the skin is oily, dry, if they have any reactions, allergic responses, and take a full intake. And then I would devise the treatment because of that. So first of all, obviously we want to cleanse the skin. And again, we want to make sure that the products we're using are not using anything with perfume in it. Essential oils are fine. Certain essential oils are not so fine. So you have to know your essential oils, or buy that from someone who knows what essential oils are good for allergy-prone skins. Now, when I was training, we were taught that if someone had rosacea, you would not use a steamer on the face. But actually I found that was okay to do. But obviously you cannot put an ozone steamer on the face and leave the customer for 15 minutes while you go and have your lunch. You have to stay beside that person, and as soon as the skin starts to get a little bit red or irritated, that's the time to stop the steamer. So it's nice to use the steamer just to get the skin heated up in order to be able to extract. And you do need to extract with most people with rosacea. Usually they've got a lot of congestion in the skin. And imagine, if you had a splinter in your skin, you would have inflammation. But it's the same thing with a big, huge blackhead. It's causing inflammation around the blackhead. So you do need to remove blackheads and excess sebum. And then the removal process, don't use any metal objects that could damage the skin. Just use plain, the old-fashioned fingertips, obviously wrapped really well with tissue paper so you're not damaging the skin. And I would say, because you're dealing with someone with very sensitive skin, take it easy. Obviously watch the skin. If it gets too much or it's painful, then stop, or just move to different areas. You can always remove more another day. So once you have removed the congestion as much as you can do, then it's time to do the treatment. Now, most people do the mask at the end. At this part, at the point in time, is when I apply my mask. So the mask you want to use, obviously, again, is a mask that will be helpful to the skin. So things like kaolin clay mixed with rose water, and obviously depending on the company you're buying from, they might have a particular mask that is pretty good for sensitive skin. So you can use any mask. This will help to draw out any more impurities out of the skin. Once that has been done, then it's time for the treatment. So with essential oils, now you do have a whole list of notes that I've given to you as part of this video. And what we look at when we're doing a treatment with someone is we're not just looking at the physical problem, so the person has got rosacea. We're also going to be looking at the emotional, mental aspect. So when you're taking the intake form, take a look at the person. Are they stressed? Are they angry? What is their mental and emotional state? That's very important. And usually most people with rosacea do have a lot of stress. Either it's from the rosacea or it could be causing the rosacea. Who knows? But it's very important to treat both. So I put a scenario out here of somebody who has a particular problem. So she has rosacea. And this is what this video is all about, is treating people with rosacea and allergy-prone skins. So she's come to you with rosacea, but you have noticed that she does seem to suffer a lot of anxiety, and she has admitted as such. So I'm actually going to put, as you see in the graph here, that the stress, anxiety as the core problem, and rosacea as the second problem. And she happens to have a few wrinkles that bother her. So the third condition could be anything. It could even be sinus conditions. So it can be anything, but the core problem is the main treatment. The secondary problem is probably the physical manifestation of it, and the third problem that she might have is anything else that bothers her. So in here, I've gone through my cross-referencing chart of essential oils that will help these particular conditions. And I put in the essential oils that will benefit these conditions. So in the stress, of course, we have all the essential oils that help stress. And then you will see here that I put in conditions that help rosacea and conditions that help with wrinkles. We then have another chart where we then look at what conditions help everything. So stress is the main condition, but obviously we want to try and treat all three conditions. So you can see here we have mandarin and petitgrain in the top notes that help also with rosacea. We have rose here that helps with rosacea and with wrinkles. And of course all of these help with stress. Now you'll notice here I'm talking about, we have something called top, middle and base notes. So for those of you who are not aromatherapists, essential oils are usually divided into three groups. So for example, essential oils that are usually taken from roots and rhizomes are usually base notes. We also tend to put into these the base note category as well for blending mixtures. We tend to put in the essentials that are really expensive, such as rose and absolutes and jasmine and Immortelle, just because you don't need as many drops as you do with top notes. Now top notes tend to be from essential oils that are from leaves and citrus fruits from the top of trees. And the middle notes are the essential oils that are usually from herbs, such as lavender, juniper berry, rosemary and so forth. Now, when we're blending and mixing, we're making a synergy of essential oils. So we're making like an orchestra of essential oils. So you can imagine if you're playing in an orchestra just one instrument like a flute, that's great. But as soon as we add, say, a trombone in, or a piano, or a violin, or a combination of these instruments, then you get an orchestra and you get a really beautiful sound. But it's the same thing with essential oils. So we could, for instance, just use rose in our blend. It will treat all three conditions. But we will get a much better effect if we use something like chamomile and mandarin in our blend in this case. So it becomes a synergy of essential oils, an orchestra that helps and helps all the essential oils work together in the treatment. Now, before we choose our essential oils, I just want to give you my personal favorites, and these are, one of them is Immortelle, which is also known as everlasting. The Latin name is Helichrysum italicum, and the reason why I love this, it contains a chemical called esters, which is a chemical that is naturally in some essential oils. And I consider esters to be like an auntie Esther, somebody very warm, relaxing, calming, cuddly. So Immortelle, what it does to the body and the skin and the mind is it calms and cools down the skin, and it's instantaneous as well. Another essential that I've always used for a long, long time is German Chamomile, and that also contains a lot of esters. And it also contains something called azulin, which is what gives it the blue color. And that also is very calming to the skin. In fact, one of the tricks I've often used when doing extraction, especially on sensitive skin, is to put a little drop of a 10% blend of German chamomile right onto the pimple or the area I've just extracted, just to calm it down immediately. So those are just a couple of essentials that I use extensively in the treatment of rosacea. Now, going back to our blend, we just discussed top, middle and base notes. So looking here, I'll show you a graph here. This is information on the notes, and you'll see in this graph here that we use more top notes than we do base notes. And often, just to give you an idea of Immortelle and German Chamomile and Rose, we usually sell them in like a 10% blend because they are expensive and you don't need to use very much of them. They're always considered, the Immortelle and Rose is considered a base note, and you can even use just 1 drop of a 10% blend. So it doesn't have to be using, although they're expensive essentials, you can still use them. So in this case, for example, going back to the other graph, we could use just simply 1 top, 1 middle, 1 base. So it's very simple. We either choose Mandarin or Petitgrain, because Mandarin and Petitgrain treat both stress and rosacea. We have nothing that does all 3. In the middle notes, we could choose either chamomile or lavender. And again, that would be in just conditions 1 and 2, which is rosacea and stress. And in the base note, we have rose, which treats both rosacea and wrinkles. So in this lady's case, because it's in conditions 1 and 2 as a top note, we'd have 3 drops of, say, Mandarin, 2 drops of chamomile, and that's chamomile Roman, and 1 drop of a 10% rose. And that would be a nice blend that you could add. So that's 6 drops to a blend. So you can add anything from 5, I would say from 4 drops to 10 drops for a treatment blend for a condition on the skin. Now, there's other things you can do if the problem is chronic long term. You could use 2 middle and 1 base note. And for an acute condition where it's just sort of like inflamed up, you could use 2 middle and 1 top note. So it will change the essential oils. Now, what you then do is you put the 6 drops of this chosen blend into a carrier to massage. And I find massage very helpful in cases of rosacea. Again, when we were originally being trained, we were told not to massage too much, but I have found that helping to move the lymphatic system really helps on the face. So I usually use a jojoba because jojoba is the least inflammatory of all the oils. And you would use anywhere from 4 to 6 mil, depending on if you're going to plan on massaging the shoulders or not. So some of you will be trained in the massage of shoulders, face and neck, which would be the preferred massage because we're treating stress as well. And some of you will only be trained in the massage of the face and neck. So obviously you need more oil for if you're massaging the shoulders. Now, the reason why I like to use massage the shoulders specifically and start working on the shoulders is to help get the lymphatic system moving, to help de-stress the customer, and also the essentials can start doing their magic. And a lot of work on draining the sinuses are working out on the face. So a lot of pressure points is very useful. Of course, you will have had a massage training. A lot of work underneath to move the lymph here, to move the lymph down. Obviously, you're not going to push down, but to drain out to the shoulders, out to the under the armpits. Working a lot the muscles on the back of the shoulders, the back of the neck, and into the little pressure points right up at the base of the skull. It's so very helpful. These are actually pressure points that work on the liver points, the gallbladder points, the kidney points, and the vagus nerve as well. So by pressing in to these points right underneath the skull, in and up with a lot of pressure, helps tremendously. So again, pressures along the sinuses, 3 rows, pressures along the forehead, moving everything out, so up, up, out, always pushing up into the lymphatic nodes here. And as I said, you would have been trained already in massage therapy, and I hope that you would incorporate that into your massage. So once you have done your massage, I personally don't like to take off the oil. I personally prefer to leave it on the skin if possible. Now, if you didn't have enough oil because you were massaging the shoulders, then you wouldn't apply another bout of essential oils, but you would apply more basic carrier oil. So you could just use plain jojoba, but make sure you use all the treatment blend on the skin first before you add more carrier oil to your pot, because you want the full benefit of the essentials to do their magic. So I personally like to, if the customer doesn't mind, leave the oil on. Jojoba is not sticky, it's not oily, and it does feel good. But of course, if the person has to go to work afterwards, then you might need to tone and moisturize. And again, using a moisturizer that has Immortelle in would be ideal. Or what you can also do is apply a little basic white lotion. Now, basic white lotion I sell this, is just plain basically oil that's emulsified. So by applying a little bit on top of the oil, you will de-oil the face so it's not so oily. So you could do that option as well. The massage should take around 20 minutes. So all in all, a full facial with extraction, cleansing, steaming, mask and massage takes about 1 hour. So there is a lot of information in your notes. There's a lot more information about different essentials that you can use and options that you can use as well. Be sure to look, the messages here, don't just look at the face and the skin condition, look at the emotional, mental state. You can also look at physical. Do they have sinus conditions? Do they have circulatory problems? These are all things. Do they have high blood pressure? You might use some essentials to lower the blood pressure down. So it's looking at the person as a whole to do the treatment. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. And otherwise, it's bye for now.